Hi, I'm Owen Murphy, and this is my policy proposal for EU migrant crisis. Okay, so first we need to start off by recognizing that there is a crisis. We've had 6 straight years of 1,000+ migrant deaths from people attempting to enter the EU through the Mediterranean Sea. Obviously, there are other modes of entry, but just looking at this, we've had over 1,000 deaths for 6 straight years, according to U.S. News. These pictures kind of show the desperation, the fear, and the kids who are coming over, and their parents are bringing them over for a better life or escape violence. So they're kind of getting dragged into it. There is a crisis. We need to do something about it. So not only is there a crisis, but it's only just begun. Looking at this graph, we can see how much the amount of refugees has increased since 1955. Now, we look at 2015, which was the last year that this graph had, and we surpassed 60 million people. Now take a look at literally a decade earlier. A decade earlier in 2005, we were below 20 million. So it really shows how this has amplified so much in the past decade, and how it is just projected to continue to grow. Okay, so there are benefits of migration, and we need to focus on those in order to get this policy through. Okay, so first, according to a study, 52% of international migrants are male, 48% are female. More importantly, though, most international migrants, 72%, are working age. That's age 20 to 64. This is really important because they can produce, they can work, and they can improve economic growth. If you got a bunch of people who are old or too young, kids, they're more going to be a drain on resources rather than producing to the overall GDP of a country. Okay, according to another graph in my paper as well, there was little to no effect on wages for UK workers. So a common complaint of those opposed to migration is that European workers have depressed British wages. However, a report found that immigration is not a major determinant of wage growth experienced by existing residents. So here we see that the dark blue talks about the estimated effect of EU immigration, and the light blue talks about the actual increase in pay over a period of time. So you see the top 10 percentile, they had a less increase in pay, while the lowest percentile, they had a much larger increase in pay. So therefore, the only negative effects of immigration happen in the lowest 25th and the lowest 10th percentile. However, those two were the two groups with the highest growth in overall wages. So there is some evidence that higher rates of immigration from the EU depressed wages for the lowest paid, even though their overall how much they were making went up the most, and enhanced them for the most highly paid. So it positively benefited those in the top 10 percentile, 75th, and the median, most important, the median percentile. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is over-inundation of border states. As I talked about in my paper, as I'm going to talk about here, Italy, Spain, and Greece, okay? There's a direct correlation with low economic stability in these regions. As I talked about in my paper, these are three of the four countries that make up the term the pigs. They are a drain on the economic viability of the European Union. So, what's the solution? We need to remove the policy that mandates that migrants and asylum seekers remain in the country where they landed. These people are coming across the Mediterranean Sea and setting up camp in countries such as Greece, and they can't leave. This will reduce the economic burden placed on these states, such as Italy, Greece, and Spain. Now, we can only do this with increased accountability from member states, from participating member states. They need to be on board. Mandating shared interest in providing sanctuary for refugees and asylum seekers. So there needs to be a common effort, a common goal, a collective effort in order to make sure that these countries participate in helping these external border states, such as Italy, Spain, Greece. Okay. Also, kind of piggybacking off of that, there needs to be increased coordination amongst these member states. They need to talk, they need to communicate, they need to discuss how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, where we're going to put them. So this can be through annual meetings, annual conferences, and participations from NGOs, non-governmental organizations. So finally, there needs to be a collectively agreed upon annual maximum number of refugees and asylum seekers allowed into Europe. This is extremely important because There's a ton of them. There's a ton of them coming in at one time, and it's not regulated. So this number of migrants will be mutually decided by the European Union and will mitigate the fear of overwhelming future participating countries. Historically speaking, Eastern European countries are not that welcoming to migrants. By providing this is a cap. This is the maximum number of migrants that we're allowing in this year. By implementing this, so it'll mitigate the fear and maybe in the future sway them to maybe join this process. So overall, by implementing this policy proposal, by changing the current policy problems, by implementing these new problems, by implementing these new procedures, I feel like we can fully secure and we can fully fix the migration process and at the same time secure the borders and keep people safe and happy and ensure future economic growth. Thank you.